Anyone else want to share? And not everyone does have to, but if I know your representational system, it helps me speak to you and communicate to you best.
I seem to be pretty average.
That's okay.
The I is definitely the highest with 15.
Okay.
And the A is the lowest with 8.
Okay. So what's after I?
12.
12.
That's visual.
Visual.
B,
And what's
12. And K, 11.
K? Okay, so visuals 12. K. And then the last one, auditory. Okay.
I'm K and I are 13 and V and A are 12.
So you are very evenly matched. Wow.
It's well balanced.
It is.
Okay, great. So we are going to begin with this as our primary comprehension of how we are learning today. Today, if you're the type of person that is auditory, then I'm going to need you to listen to what I'm saying and for it to sound like it makes sense. If you start with V, then I'm going to need you to see what I'm saying and for us to map it out and you to diagram exactly what it is that I am presenting to you so that it looks right. If you're more I, I'm going to need you to calculate, assess, compile this data, and make sure that it processes and computes well. Okay? Does everyone make sense and see what I'm doing? If you're a K starter, if this doesn't feel right to you, you're never going to get it. You really have, you have to have a gut instinct about this, and it's just got to make sense. You really got to feel like you're understanding what I'm saying. Does this make sense? Are you guys hearing the different linguistic frames of reference that I'm using depending upon who I'm speaking to? Okay, so if you are an I person, what do you think is going to be most important for your financial freedom? Information, data, facts, right? If you're auditory, what are you going to have to listen for to make sure that your future sounds the way it's supposed to sound?
Tonality?
Tonality, cadence, pitch. All of the noises that go into your reality are going to make a big difference in the way it matters to you, how it sounds when you arrive. If you're a visual person, what are we going to have to focus most on creating for you today in order for your future to look the way that you want it to look?
A map.
A map, visuals, imagery, lots of things that you can see clearly. What if you're a kinesthetic person? Today, what are we going to need to focus most on? How's it feel? Does it feel good? How's it feel? Does this feel like that this is the future that's going to make you feel best? How does it feel? When you start to think about what it's going to be like, how does it make you feel? These are all the most important things to you if you're a kinesthetic person. Okay? Does everyone understand why it's most important for you to comprehend how you speak to yourself first? Okay, so when we create this, we first have to understand what NLP is and why should I learn it and why should I apply it? Okay, so neurolinguistic programming is the foundational understanding that language affects your neuropathy, the way you think about things. Language affects your mental patterns in your brain. And programming is the idea that you can then use that language to program different mental states, different neuropathy. Okay? That's the whole understanding of NLP. That's what it is. It's using language, whether that's visual, spoken, felt, heard. You're using language to change minds, which will then change behaviors. Okay? Why should you learn it? Why do you guys think you should learn it? Matthew, why should you learn NLP?
It's a good tool.
It's a great tool for what?
Understanding.
Understanding. Understanding what?
Understanding people.
People. What else?
Yourself.
Yourself.
Relationships?
Relationships.
Other people's behaviors? I'm sorry.
Identifying other people's behaviors. Motivation. Motive. Intent.
Yeah.
And I use neurolinguistic programming every morning when I wake up to program myself.
There you go. Setting mental states, setting yourself up for success. Anybody else think of any reasons why you might want to use neurolinguistic programming in your everyday life? Why you should learn it, what you should apply it to? Is parenting easier when you understand NLP?
Oh,
Yes.
You've been really good this evening, Jace. Would you rather go to bed at 8:30 or do you want to go to bed at 9? It's a double bind, neurolinguistic programming.
Yeah.
It's highly effective in parenting.
Our kid would say, well, I would like to go to bed at 11.
Of course he
Since
would.
I've been really good.
Because my kid understands what a double bind is by now. He's
quite
really
good
good.
at NLP.
But I can assure you that NLP is highly effective for a lot of things in your life that you wouldn't even think about applying it to. Whether or not you're at a grocery store and you're wanting to get around somebody who's blocking the middle of the lane, there's all sorts of things, anchoring techniques, different things that I can teach you where you'd never have to say or do anything that seems obvious to get somebody to behave differently. There are all sorts of social circumstances and situations that you can apply NLP. There are tons of ways that you can apply it, but unless it's relevant to you, unless you can clearly see a scenario, hear a scenario, or feel a social circumstance or situation where this will apply, none of this is going to apply to you, and therefore it will be harder for you to understand what's the point. What is the point of actually sitting down and doing any of this? So you have to be really intentional about realizing how you can use this in your life to make you more powerful, to make you more effective, and to help you get more of the successful outcomes that you want. Okay? So that's why. Financial freedom would change my life in the following way. Everybody go to our syllabus for today, our outline, and right there on that line, I want you to put how financial freedom would change your life. How would it change? What would be different tomorrow? You wake up, you're completely financially free. What changes? Okay, now what you wrote down should be your real goal. Financial freedom provides you this. Does that connect? When you look at it now, is that what you want? Now, financial freedom is very ambiguous. There's a reason that we make a lot of these successful outcomes ambiguous. I want your brain to generate the visuals, the sounds, and the feelings that are necessary for what financial freedom means. And that's why I layered in really ambiguously and then say, what will change in your life when you're there? See, most people, when they want you to develop goals, what's the goal? What's the goal? How many dollars do you need? What's the amount of money you need? Now, the reason that I don't do that is because you don't know.
Makes sense.
You don't know how many dollars it's going to take. So what do we need to generate is what is the end desire. When you have that thing, financial freedom, what will that give you? What changes in your life once you have it? How will you know? That's what we're really asking the mind is, how do you know that you've arrived at financial freedom? So now that you look at that again, that what you just wrote, what will change? Is that right? Or do we need to modify it? How will you know that you arrived? Is this what you want? If you need to modify it, go ahead and modify it now, because we need to make sure that this is how my life will change, and this is what I want to change. Yes, ma'am.
Do you mind if we shut the shades?
Please.
It's so distracting
Absolutely.
for me. All the
Absolutely.
people going by.
Are you visual? I'm just kidding.
That's my second one.
So
Sorry to interrupt.
I'm glad that you did it, and it actually brings across a very good point. A lot of times when you're communicating, You don't know when visual anchors might be distracting somebody from what point you're trying to make. It's really good for somebody to let you know, hey, that's visually distracting me, so that you can reset those visual anchors. Because one of the things that I demonstrate and teach is how important it is to maintain visual constants, tonal constants, cadence, and pitch when you're trying to communicate certain types of thinking. You don't want that type of thinking to break. Because if your pattern of thought breaks in the middle of that, it's not going to stick. So we want to make sure that we keep implementing that the proper way. Now that everyone has had a chance to put down how you would change in the following way, how your life would change once you reach financial freedom, I want you to write down what it is that you want materialistically more than anything that you don't have. What material thing do you want more than anything that costs money that you want? I know I want this, I don't have this, I want this. Be as specific as you possibly can. If there's anything monetarily that right now you can't go out and get and you would love to, that's the thing that you would love to do.
You put that where?
Anywhere you want to. I just want you to create it. Write it down.
What if it's not really,
Tangible?
yes.
That's fine, as long as you know what it is. And you know that it costs a certain amount of money, and that if you had that certain amount of money, you could do it. That's what matters, is that this is materialistically connected to finances, and if you had freedom to do whatever you wanted with your finances, you would do this. So what we've done now is we've created the thing that would change in our life, and now we've created the thing we could purchase if we had financial freedom. What other things do you think are necessary for our mind to connect to financial freedom? What else must be connected to this?
We've got to have a way to get from A to B.
Correct. So what do you think that is? What normally is that called?
Work,
Goals.
Goals. Starts with a P. Is the number one word I always hear.
Plans.
Plan. Some sort of plan. Okay, so here is what neurolinguistic programming is about. Neurolinguistic programming is the idea that most of the time these aren't good and don't work out. That's the idea. NLP bypasses these in order to get these. So rather than creating this and sitting down and writing down the plan, NLP is about creating the goals. The financial freedom visuals, auditory, kinesthetic, and internal dialogue representational systems to you when you're there. Not what it will take to get you from A to B, what it will look like when you're at B. The primary thing we have to focus on now is creating this thing that we're writing down a reality. How do we make it as real as possible? What will it look like? What will it sound like? What will it feel like when I've arrived at financial freedom? This is neurolinguistic programming. We are programming our own minds to find a financial freedom model in our brain. What would that look like? What would it sound like? Where are auditory people in the room? Raise your hands. Okay, now when you're thinking about this, you want to think about what will it sound like on a daily basis when I wake up? What will be the sounds that I hear most commonly when I am financially free? Birds. Why birds? Why birds? Why birds?
Because I'm usually working, the birds are.
And so are you having time to hear birds? No. What do you wake up to right now? How many people here wake up to an alarm clock? Would you be waking up to birds if you were financially free instead of an alarm clock?
Yes.
Right. Right. What else? What other sounds are in your life when you're financially free?
Music.
Music. What type of music?
Well, I like classic rock, but
Sure.
just,
Like what?
I
I think of Fleetwood Mac. You
Yeah.
can go your own way.
yeah, Stevie
As
Ray
soon
Vaughan,
as I,
Zeppelin,
yeah,
all
Stevie Ray
those.
Vaughan.
Yeah.
As soon as I start thinking about that type of stuff and just road tripping, I think of road
That's
tripping,
exactly, yeah.
right? Plugging in something to the MP3 player and road tripping. What else? What about what things do others say to you when you're financially free? What kind of phrases do you hear?
Let's go.
Let's go. What else?
What would you like to do today?
What would you like to do today?
That's what he's having.
I'll have what he's having.
There you go.
There you go. Very good. I'll have what he's having.
And where are you? Because I'm going to be in my RV.
Mm-hmm. Yeah?
Day drinking. I'm just
Day drinking.
You two need to go together.
Yeah, right? You guys thinking about it now? What kind of sounds are you going to hear? Wow, that's a nice car. I really like your shoes. Where do you get your hair cut? What other types of sounds do you think you're hearing when you're financially free?
compliment.
Who's your broker? Let me ask you, what are you investing in now? All of these things are things that when you're financially free, you will hear it. You'll hear it. What about what do you say to yourself?
I made it.
I made it.
Every day's Friday.
Every day's a Friday. If you love what you do, you never have to work a day in your life. Right? All of this stuff. If you're saying this stuff to yourself, are you financially free? You are, right? Where are my visual people at? Raise your hands at me if you're visual. Okay. What's it going to look like when you've arrived and you're financially free? What is it going to look like? What does it look like first thing in the morning?
Sunshine.
In what type of room?
Any room I want.
Right?
That you're in, I mean.
There you go. What else?
I open the door and there's the mountains.
Mountains. You like mountains? Anybody? Anybody a beach person?
Too, yeah.
Beach?
was my top.
Beach.
Can't you do both at the
Thank
same
you.
time?
Great.
Yeah.
Why not? California's got both, right?
I'm thinking Spain.
Spain has both. So are you thinking about traveling? What else does it look like? Sunshine's good. What else?
Memories.
Okay. What type of memories? You're making memories now?
Family, yeah, with family.
Family, loved ones. What else?
You choose to be around.
Nice bathtubs.
Fireplace.
Everybody got a fireplace? Nice house? You got a nice house, a visual that pops up? No, not so much. Some people don't care to have a nice home. Some people want a nice RV, they want to travel, they want to cruise the world. There's a lady right now who is cruise shipping until she dies. That's what she decided to do. Her and her husband accrued a lot of points. She can afford it. It's cheaper for her to do that consistently than go to a nursing home. She's cruising with the rest of her life. She's been doing it for a few years now. Possible. You can do whatever you want. What does it look like to you? If these visuals aren't hitting home, get rid of them and get the visuals in your mind that matter most to you. What does it look like when you're financially free?
My husband, obviously we want to get an RV and we want to travel, and we've been watching on YouTube every day when I get home from work. We sit down and watch other people who are doing it on YouTube for about an hour.
So this is interesting, and this is why I want you guys to think about this. What do you think it's doing to her brain as she watches other people living the life that she wants? What does it do?
Wiring it.
It's wiring it together. She's visualizing it, she's seeing it through. What do you think her brain is being able to develop to get to that?
Plan unconsciously.
Unconsciously creating a plan to make sure that my goals match what it is that I'm meditating on. The things that I'm visualizing, the things I'm focusing on when I'm listening to how it's going to sound when I'm doing that. That is what's generating all of that within the mind. I have a former client who, when he came to me, was dating someone 30 years younger than he is, was driving a red sports car, he was a stockbroker, and he came to me and was miserable in a lot of things. He now is unemployed. He travels around and works camps. New Mexico, Colorado, Idaho. He travels around the United States, staying in different places. He works camps, he drives an RV. He's happier than he ever has been in his entire life. He calls me once a week and tells me, thank you, thank you, thank you. Never thought it was possible for me to be this happy. You helped me connect to what it was I really wanted. I'm happy. Everything he owns can fit in a suitcase.
And he had like a nice sports car before, and a 30-year-old girlfriend, and like a cute
he was living the dream.
He thought he was living the dream, and then
Everybody thought he was
realized-
living the dream.
yeah.
He was miserable. He wanted what you're talking about. He wanted a life of simplicity. He wanted to cruise. He wanted to enjoy scenery, mountains. He wanted to fish. He wanted to hunt. He
And
wanted
he's
to do
really
his
a
thing.
solo type guy.
And he's a great guy. And
Oh,
he's
yeah.
still a good friend, and he's enjoying his life, and it's because now he has real financial freedom. He's not obligated to do anything he doesn't want to do. He lives the life he wants. And that's what I want for everyone in this room. Financial freedom is what you make it. Now, how many of my I people do I have in the room? ID, internal dialogue. Okay, great. So then, what do you think we are going to have to really focus our attention on right now to be able to connect with, to calculate the probability of us having financial freedom?
Overcome the negative impulses. Overcome those things in your head that say, this is never going to happen.
ID people have a tendency to be what they like to call realistic.
Yes.
It's their way of never doing anything and always being safe. So ID people, which is internal dialogue, means that you're having a conversation with yourself a lot. You are telling yourself a story. A narrative is being held inside of your head about what's happening in your life, and it's a story that you're telling yourself. So, what do you think we have to begin to do?
Change the story.
Change the story we're telling ourselves. That's correct. Internal dialogue is changing the internal dialogue that you're having with yourself. So when I communicate to myself and convince myself that something's a good idea, typically how do I do that if I'm an ID person?
Repeat the phrase again.
When I make a decision, if I'm an ID person, an internal dialogue person, how do I convince myself that it's a good idea? What do I use?
Rationalization.
Facts, figures, data. So, financial freedom, future. What has to be there?
Facts, figures, and data.
Facts, figures, and data. That's right. So whenever I'm an ID person and I'm trying to calculate what my financial freedom is going to look like, what do I want most? Facts, data, and figures. So how many cars have I got? How much a month am I paying in bills? How many employees do I have? You start talking about what it's going to look like numbers-wise. Facts, figures, what does it look like? How many houses? Where am I going to be? What am I going to be doing with every day? How big is my impact on my environment, my social circle? How much is this going to require daily, my hours? All of that stuff becomes a part of your financial freedom. You want as many facts, figures, and details built into this as possible, or else you're not doing it. You want to know what that's going to look like, sound like, feel like. You want it all the data. More data, more data, more data. Then you have to constantly do a good job of focusing on what financial freedom is to you and focusing all of your intent on telling that story to yourself. This is where I'm headed. That's the destination. The goal is here. We're driving toward this financial freedom. What does that look like? I know what it looks like. I've got a lot of data that's connected to this. A lot of calculations have gone into what my financial future and freedom looks like. Okay? Even if there isn't any, it's all of that language.
Measurement comes into that too, right?
Absolutely, measurement. Measurement is fantastic and it gets overlooked a lot. When you're thinking about your financial future, measurement-wise, how big does the visual imagery come to your mind? How big is it? When you think about it, is it big? Is it on a big screen like an IMAX? When you're thinking about your future, is it little window, barely able to connect with it. When you're generating those pictures, it's not big at all. Measurement, how big is it? How important is it?
And how close you are to it.
And how close are you to it? Yeah, absolutely. All very important things to consider when you're an ID person and you're thinking about things, internal dialogue, calculating them, facts and figures, data. All of those words are important to you if you're an ID person, so you need to use them when you're creating your visuals, your auditory sounds, your feelings, everything. You also have to use data. Because you can't just be feeling it, you have to also be convinced of it because of all the facts and figures that are around it.
So for that kind of person, would it be helpful to them to, as they're doing their daily activities, is this to be thinking about, is this leading me to that?
Yes, all the time. How's this going to help me get closer to my goal? Does this activity, if I were to react to that person in the way that I want to, would that get me closer to my goal? In what way will it get me closer to my goal? Yes, sir.
Does that make ID people very skeptical of things most of the time?
ID people have a conversation with themselves before they make a decision on most things. So rather than it making them skeptical, it gives them half a second longer to process what was said. If they're not necessarily skeptical, they're taking a second to have the conversation with themselves before they answer. It doesn't necessarily make them any more skeptical. But it will give everyone else the impression around them that they're thinking longer than the other person is, which isn't necessarily true. They're processing it in a different manner. Where other people might take it through their kinesthetic, check and see how they feel about something, and then just respond. The other person's taking it through their internal dialogue mechanism and then going to respond. They're both going to respond off of their first impression, primarily, but it's one of them is doing a different process than the other. Speaking of kinesthetics, let's go ahead and move into that. What's going to be most important to kinesthetic people? Who's kinesthetic? Great. What's going to be most important to our kinesthetic thinkers when we're talking about financial freedom?
How do you feel?
How does it feel?
Comfort.
Comfort, safety, security,
Free.
free. How does all of that make you feel when you think about these words and you hear these words? Security. What is it? Comfortable.
Safe.
Does it make you feel more safe when you think about the future and you think about freedom? You think about safety, security. What else do you think about? Fun,
Feeling
adventure.
happy.
What else?
Peace.
Peace. Peace is a great one. Clarity. All of those words. Kinesthetic people, when they're thinking about their financial freedom, when they're thinking about the goal that they want, they have to think about how it's going to make them feel. When I've arrived there, what will I feel? Security, safety, confidence, comfort. What else? Confidence is a big one for me. I think that a lot of people who are financially free are very confident.
I feel satisfaction.
Satisfaction. Anything else that we can think of off the top of our head for a feeler? What would be important feeling-wise for a feeler? For your financial freedom, for it to be what you want it to be, what do you have to feel?
Continuance.
So like it's not going to end?
Yeah.
So that it's here to stay?
Yes.
That financial freedom? Does that sound like?
That's what safe is.
That's what?
Safe is.
That's what safe is. If it's safe, then it's going to continue. So safe and secure are kind of continuous. Those are all in the same vein. Any other words that financial freedom brings to mind? That feeling that you can feel free.
Power.
Peace. Power? Explain that a little bit. Elaborate on that. Power, peace.
Well, so many times I think a lot of us feel powerless when we're kind of, cogs of the machine. But when you have that financial freedom, you have the power over your environment.
I like it.
Choice.
Choices?
Choice, yeah.
What does that feel like to you guys? Choice? What do you think? Are these words hitting home for you or not really?
Yeah.
Are they the right ones or can you add better ones?
Excitement.
Excitement?
Yeah.
I like that too. What else? How would a feeler feel if they were financially free? Excitement, freedom, peace, Security, confidence, power. Anything else?
Happy,
Happy? I like it.
content.
Content?
Happy and content can be very similar to me.
Sure.
And joy falls in that same
Joy?
category.
Do all of us, as we hear these words and see these words, do we feel like that if I was financially free, I'd feel that way too? What about the visuals that we had? What were some of the visuals?